If one paperclip is 1 week of your life, how many will you have left after taking away all the crap you waste your time with? To find out, I scoured the internet to get the best data possible and built a death calculator that tells you exactly how much time you have left. I don't care how old you are, this video will change how you see life itself. Let's say you're 35 today. 1/3 of these weeks are going to be spent sleeping. 386 weeks are going to be spent at work. 196 weeks are going to be spent doing chores. 98 weeks are going to be spent peeing, pooping, and checking yourself out in the mirror because you're a sexy son of a gun. 112 weeks are going to be spent eating. 40 weeks are going to be spent sick, dealing with rabies, colds, explosive diarrhea, or whatever pandemic is coming for us next. And we haven't even gone into the obvious time wasters, like scrolling on your phone or the time you spend picking lint out from your belly button. An average person spends 5 hours and 16 minutes on their phones each day. Even if I only count 1/3 of that as isolated phone time, that still kills another 171 weeks. And then there's Netflix, Hulu, video games, and mastering how to make cereal. And all the random dead time that leaks when transitioning between stuff. That's another 100 weeks gone from your entire life. How much time do we have left now? Just 468 weeks. That's less than 9 years of life, and it's literally ticking down as we speak. Oh, but it gets worse. There's a difference between free time and usable time. A block of time is only usable if you have 3 things: energy, attention, and continuity. You may have free time, but if you're tired, distracted, or it's all chopped up, it's not really usable. Hence why you need all 3. Let's say that only happens half the time. That means 468 weeks of technical free time is really only 234 weeks of usable time. That's it in this pile. If you're 35 today, you actually only have 4.5 years left to live. That's it. That's how much time you get for the things you actually care about. Things like chasing dreams, building skills, making friends. I don't know about you, but this freaking scares me. I have so many dreams I've yet to pursue, memories I've yet to make, books I've yet to read. Is it even possible to do it all? This is the interesting part now. If you knew 235 weeks are all you have left, how would you spend them? Let's say you want to get good at pickleball, cooking pickles, and yodeling. Typical guy hobbies. Spending even just 30 minutes a day for hobbies is going to cost you 50 weeks. If you want to master a skill, that's going to cost an extra 60 weeks. Maybe you want to write a book or build a business. If goals cost 50 weeks each, 2 goals will cost you another 100 weeks. Oh, but you want a great body too, right? Exercising 30 minutes a day costs another 50 weeks. Uh-oh, you're already out of time. Oh, but don't you want friends too? According to Professor Jeffrey Hall, it takes 50 cumulative hours of hanging out to go from acquaintance to friend, 90 hours to go from friend to good friend, and 200 hours to go from a good friend to best friend. And then it takes time to maintain the friendship too, right? To have 5 really close friends, you're going to need another 55 weeks. You're short almost 100 weeks now. Add another goal or hobby, or waste a few more minutes here or there scrolling on your phone, and soon you'll be short more than 200 weeks. Where's this extra time going to come from? What are you going to sacrifice? Your friends? Your health? That book you want to write? Because according to the time you have left, you can't have them all. You can't make more time, but you can get time back if you work smarter. And that's why I use ChatLLM by abacus.ai. I know what you're thinking. Why should I use another AI when there's so many out there already? But Abacus isn't just another random model. It's actually all the models combined in one place, literally, which is great because some are better than others depending on what tasks you want it to do. But with Abacus, you no longer have to wonder. It has this feature called Root LLM that automatically switches to the best model for your specific task. Research, image creation, video generation, PowerPoint. It just knows. You can even get Abacus's deep agent to straight up build apps and websites for you. You know what the crazy part is? It's just $10 a month, which is far cheaper than paying for multiple AI tools separately. And yet with Abacus, you get to have them all. That sounds cool. Link in the description. Have you ever wondered what the top 5 regrets of the dying are? Oh, would you look at that? Someone wrote a book with that exact same name. Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse, compiled all the regrets shared by her patients in the final weeks of their lives. The number one most common regret was this: I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Take Paul Kalanithi, for example. In his last year of neurosurgery training, he gets this weird pain. His tests come back fine, and so he ignores it. He's only 30, right? And so he thinks, what's the worst that could happen? But then he starts losing weight and soon discovers that he actually has stage 4 metastatic lung cancer. A guy in the prime of his life, about to have everything, about to marry the wife of his dreams, about to be a dad. Less than a year after his daughter is born, Paul dies in the same ICU he works at. The only reason we know this is because he spent the last moment of his life writing a memoir. The sad thing is, he wasn't even able to finish it. His wife published it after his death as a way to honor his memory. That's why there are 3 fundamental rules to time management. First rule, time management is actually death management. The sooner you start, the less regrets you'll have. Map out your entire life today. Make a master bucket list of all the things you must do to die with 0 regrets. Do it today, not when you're old or when you realize you only have 6 months to live. Use the 3 things framework. If I can only have 3 things, what are the 3 things I want to do, the 3 things I want to have, and the 3 things I want to be? Have, do, be. Doing this exercise immediately made it clear for me. The last thing I want to waste my life doing is climbing some corporate ladder, kissing the asses of people I don't respect. That's why I quit being the medical director and started massively going all in on this channel. That's the macro technique. The micro technique is all about using your death to fine-tune your moment-to-moment decision-making. Anytime I'm faced with a choice, I remind myself, I'm going to die one day. Is this something future me on my deathbed will care about? I have 234 paper clips left. Do I really want to spend one of these on this? Rule number 2, time management is actually memory management. You don't really need more time. You just need better memories. To form better memories, follow the peak end rule. It was first discovered by Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, who tracked how much pain people experience when getting colonoscopies. This is where they stick a camera up your butt. He found that patients' memory of total pain was predicted by mostly 1, the worst moment, and 2, the pain near the end, not by the total duration or total pain of the experience. Then in a 2003 randomized trial, they tested the idea directly. Half were randomly assigned to the normal procedure, while the other half had a short extra interval added at the end, where the colonoscope tip remained in the rectum but was not moved. The extra time was uncomfortable but less painful than the active part of the procedure. The extended group with the less painful ending rated the whole experience as less unpleasant and were more likely to return for repeat colonoscopies years later. Is that not hilarious? It means we basically have 2 selves. The experiencing self lives through every second, while the remembering self tells a story shaped by just 2 questions. How bad was the worst part, and how did it end? So, if you want to use your time more wisely, it's not about micromanaging your time or squeezing out every last bit of juice from your life. It's just the 2 questions, but inverted. How good was the best part of the day, and how did your day end? And then scale that up. How good was the best part of your life, and how will your life end? As long as you nail those 2 questions down, everything else won't matter because your brain won't even remember it anyway. This is why I intentionally give each week a memory anchor. I use the death calculator to help me with this. It's cool because as time goes on, the grid automatically fills up to show you how many weeks you have left. In each grid, I write in my memory anchor. The peak moment for this week was hang out with my best friend Bob. The peak moment for the week prior was hang out with Mr. Duck, though I honestly sort of felt weird feeding him another bird. This is why boredom feels long in the moment, but looking back feels short because no memories are made. But when you're having fun, it feels short in the moment, but long looking back, precisely because of all the memories made. Unfortunately, we've broken this by creating a new category, short. Doom scrolling and other common time and addictions feel short because you burned hours away doing nothing, but when you look back, they're also short in memory too because there's nothing to hold on to. This is what I call liminal time. It's like the backrooms except for memories. When you spend all this time doing stuff you won't remember, you're basically roaming the backrooms of your life. I use this reframe to remind myself to use my time more wisely. Before I do anything that is short, I tell myself I'm about to descend into the backrooms and burn a paperclip. Am I cool with that? If so, how long do I want to stay down there? How can I make sure I'll be able to find my way out? Rule number 3, time management is sleep management. We often think of time management as productivity systems and fancy calendars, but it really comes down to just a few high leverage things. Sleep is probably the highest yield lever of them all because nailing down a solid sleep routine hits all 3 levers at once. When you sleep, you clear out your brain of all the metabolic waste products accumulated throughout the day. Sleep is also when you consolidate your memories, which solidly supports rule number 2. If you never feel like you have enough time, I highly encourage you to invert your day. A regular day bunches all your free time at the end of the day when you have the least energy and attention to use it, while an inverted day bunches all your free time at the beginning when you still have the ability to use it. If you go to bed at 9 p.m. and wake up at 5 a.m., you'll have carved out 3 hours of immediately usable time, assuming you normally start your day at 8 a.m., especially because no one's bothering you at 5 in the morning. 5 a.m. wake-ups only feel hard if you only do it occasionally or flip-flop on your sleep schedule. But hit it consistently and let your circadian rhythm stabilize through this new routine, it basically becomes your new normal. With this one move, you basically double your usable time immediately. I'm also a big proponent of prioritizing your most important tasks as the first thing you do for the day, not grabbing your phone, not rushing to go to work. It's like you're sending a message to your brain. Yo, dude, this here thing is important. VIP, baby. This is how you intentionally make your life revolve around the thing you care most about, as opposed to what everyone else is doing, which is squeezing it in as an afterthought after everything else. This is literally the game plan for how you die with 0 regrets. We just talked about how sleep fixes your energy and your time, but there's actually a lot of research on how powerful sleep is for raw attention and focus too. If attention is something you want to improve on with real scientific evidence-backed strategies, this next video is for you.